Good morning, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Anna Bravington, Innovation Director at Oxford Innovation, specialized in STEM startups, future tech, and Anna is a cat lady and biscuit enthusiast. Anna, welcome to our interviews.
Thank you. Really good to be here.
Great. So, Anna, can you give us first a bit of a background about yourself and what you do?
Well, as we haven't got all of the time to fill that because I have an extensive background, I started life as a programmer and a degree in computing, and then moved more towards business and marketing over the years, and then started at Oxford Innovation last year, using all those skills in advising businesses and marketing to help all of the resident businesses here at Fareham Innovation Centre, where I'm located now, and with the businesses throughout our Oxford Innovation Network as well. And it's been absolutely amazing. And obviously meeting you as well after, so it's been brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, and for everyone who's listening to us, Oxford Innovation has like a network of innovation spaces all over UK. I think it's 30 plus innovation centers in total, and myself, Anna, and a group of other innovation directors are advising businesses on how to grow and scale. And today's subject, it's really interesting. So we're gonna break down a particular example with Anna's help on how to get the first 1,000 use platform, whether you have funding or you don't. So Anna, where would we even start here?
I think there's a lot of ways that you can do it. We've seen some really good examples over the years. One of I was trying to remember what that platform was that was a few years ago, and it went sort of viral, where everybody signed up to, it was like an alternative to PayPal. And I want to say it was called something like Igloo or something. And if you signed up to it, they then said, if this launches, you get a percentage of the profit. And I remember they had thousands and thousands of signups. And as soon as we talked about this topic, it reminded me back there. I don't think it ever launched, which was disappointing because I was looking forward to earning my millions from being an early sign up. But I know that they had thousands, and it was a way to, I think this was really clever. They hadn't actually launched. So talking about your users, thinking about getting them before launch, and they had built up this huge database of people that were interested pre-launch, so that if they had launched, sadly they didn't, it would have meant that they had this base that they could connect with and advertise to and try and get them on the platform. So I was thinking back to that when we were first talking about this, because I thought that was a really ingenious way with this sort of money share prospects, and the earlier you signed up, the bigger share you got of the profits, which was fantastic. And then so there was an urgency thing as well. If I sign up now, I'll get twice as much if I sign up in a couple of days. So I really enjoyed that one, and I'm a bit sad that it never came to fruition.
You know what? It's quite interesting when you have the incentive partnership program for your customers.
Yeah.
And what comes to my mind right now is I hear that all the time, where I'm being bombarded by offers through like Amazon kind of AWS partnerships, where everyone wants to like kind of earn this revenue share from referrals. And one of our clients helps to reduce AWS bill 10 times. And it's a really impressive solution. Is about to launch his product within the next 1 to 3 months. And it's an early stage startup with minimal funding coming from founders. What your advice would be to this type of a business operating in a B2B SaaS cloud to get maybe the first 100 users? Like what kind of growth hacks, I'm not sure if I like this word, they could use to get there?
Yeah. It's really interesting because B2B sometimes can be really different to B2C, because one of the go-to that I tend to use for B2C is referral marketing, where if you refer someone, you tend to get a kickback, $5 or £5, depending on what country you're in. But the thing with B2B, you still have that human to human approach, but the kickback that the person is getting isn't necessarily for them, it's for the business. And I find actually when you're getting £5 or £10 or £20 back, and it's not personally for you, it actually doesn't incentivize people so much. So I tend to think about the problems that people in business have. So one of the things is they want to get software for the best value possible because they're always reporting to the FD, the chief financial officer, trying to keep their costs down when it comes to tech. And so how is it, is it sort of specific discounts that you can offer? Is it showing a return on investment, which is hard for a new platform? Thinking about how can that person look good in their job by taking your platform? Because that's what it's all about. It's not about, when people talk about B2B, they think about how does it benefit the business? But a lot of decisions are made, how is it going to benefit me? If you've got Brian from accounts that wants to take on new accounting software, he doesn't want to know about the 190 features. He wants to know that he's going to get home to watch Countdown on time. So trying to think about what benefits you can do to offer to that person. Is it that you can, have a session with them to look at their strategy and speed it up? If you've got a few users and you're trying to start small with 100 users, is there some sessions that you can do? Are there financial incentives which make it look good for the first year when you're adopting software, so that once it gives you time to prove a return on investment? So there's a company around here that offers CAD software free for the first year for certain startups, and that's so people can use it, trial it, and then they've proved a return on investment or not, depending on whether they like it. And then that way, if they are using it and getting good return on investment, they can continue to use it. And it's a good way for people to understand if something's going to be profitable for them. A lot of the problems I see are the platforms that are quite high costs. There's something new and people don't have a trial period. They don't have any way to test it. And so they're very hesitant. Budgets are really tight at the moment. Every purchase is questioned. And if you can't show return on investment, it can be really hard to get it out the door. So for me, it's that sort of softer way of entry that really helps.
So just giving people this kind of time to learn, explore, before committing to any big kind of expenditure or big contracts. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, and then so let's say that we know who's our buyer persona, the ideal client persona. This could be the accountant in the firm, or maybe in this cloud software that's likely to be like some kind of CTO, lead developer that needs to kind of get the buy-in from the business. So that's quite interesting. And then what would be your recommendation then to reach out to your ideal client persona? Would you do it individually? Are there any other methods? How would you go about it?
It does depend. I mean, if your software is really low cost to entry, it can be not financially viable to do that reach out. Hence why, that platform that I mentioned earlier, where they're trying to get that sort of virality and getting people to recommend each other. But if you're just doing a test bed and you just need to reach out, I mean, I do like having a few early testers on board, and I do reach out to those personally. I've worked with a company in Africa, and he went out to businesses in his local area and got them to sign up, and that he targeted certain industries that he knew really wanted his software. And he went out and he went and chatted to them, because particularly in Africa, it's very good to one-to-one conversation, and people like that, because he knew that if they were on his software, other people would follow suit. So although it was quite an outlay in his time and effort, it meant that he had some names on the books which others could follow. And also then they could recommend him because of the way that their industry works. They often recommend suppliers to each other as well. So it's about understanding your industry, I think, is really important. You know, if do accountants meet and talk to each other, or depending on whoever your audience is, you know, you can do things like webinars, which instead of just reaching one, you reach a few, and you can do that much more personal experience. There was an interesting one. There's a social platform, I think it was called Woofy. And they used to do, the owner would do a sort of webinar-y induction session before you bought the software, talking through the features, showing you them all. So it was quite too cheap to be able to do it one-to-one. So he would do, I think he'd have about 20 people on each one. And he would schedule them sort of several a day, each day, and just this big cycle of going through these. But it was the same presentation over and over again. And it meant that when people signed up, they roughly knew what they were going to get. They could ask questions. I thought that was a really nice approach. You couldn't sustain that long term, but for those fairly early first adopters, if you can get them on and then get them recommending, it's a really good way to go.
Interesting. So let's say this potentially could work for the first 10, 100 users.
Yeah.
And once we reach that moment, what's next?
Well, I mean, the thing is, its recommendations are huge. That's one of the biggest areas that I think a lot of people discount with them. You know, like I said, B2C, I found tend to work a little bit better than B2B, because with the referrals, you can do the incentive-based ones, which when you're getting money yourself makes it a lot better. But there are referrals that people will refer things, you know, making sure that you're starting to collect those testimonials so that you're then reaching out to potential people. And then, although you're not going to be selling individually, putting things on where you're gathering those email addresses. Email address gathering is the most important thing of any new business and any tech business. You want to be building your own database of people. You don't want to be relying on Facebook because of, you know, or LinkedIn or Twitter completely. They're great channels, but you don't want to because if an algorithm changes, you could suddenly disappear. So you want to start gathering those email addresses. So, you know, referral programs, offering events and webinars, but much more mass, you know, with lots of people on them, and trying to, you know, offers and competitions. There's so many different things that you can do, but trying to build that database, and it does depend on your audience as to which way you're going to do it. You know, I've seen people do it anything from winning a hamper to winning a year's subscription, etc. So because things like that, if you offer like a hamper, even if it's B2B, you know, the finance team could go and enjoy some chocky bickies and something. Yes, I had to mention biscuits at some point in this conversation because I'm a biscuit enthusiast. So yeah, there's loads of ways to try and entice people, but it's that email list. The email list is really, really important for trying to build that as early as possible, because then you can market to your audience and you know they're interested and they're engaged.
Brilliant. So I have a question then for you, Anna. So the question is about this email list. So as early stage founders, startups, we have a lot of friends we can add to the email list and so on. There are ways to start this email list. And then let's say, just following this example, whether it's like a cloud or accounting software, B2B space, once we have this email addresses, how often do we want to engage with our audience, and what do we want to share with them through those emails?
So once again, it does depend on your industry and who you're targeting. But I always think with content and stuff that you're going to offer, what value does it bring to the person that you're sending it to? So I've signed up for some different softwares and I'm getting emails every 5 minutes just trying to sell me something. And, you know, it gets too much. You need to get that balance of giving something. So you don't want every email. You need a sales and a CTA and a call to action, to bring people in. But what are you giving them? Are you giving them advice? Like this podcast, we're giving advice and help, and we're giving something. And you say you give something to get something. Is it a really interesting blog post? Is it some tips? I remember when Content Cow first came out. So Content Cow, for anyone who doesn't know, is a social media scheduling platform. And Andy Lambert, that owned that, he used to do the most wonderful LinkedIn posts, which were, I think it was 4 or 5 tips of what's changed in social media in this last week. So every week he would do this one video and really interesting things on what had changed in social media, and it'd be updates to platforms, useful things that you needed to know. They were really useful because when I used to be a lot more in digital marketing, trying to keep up with what's happening in social media platforms is a full-time job pretty much. It's really hard. So he gave something that was so valuable and so brilliant. And he would do this consistently every week. And then I signed up to his emails because he gave great content. So then I got through his emails. They continued that valuable content of tips and tricks. And they used to have webinars, which carried on the same theme. And it was absolutely invaluable for anyone that was in social. And his platform just grew and grew because not only was it a great platform, but the whole ethos around it was about helping its users and being brilliant. I mean, they've sold to Adobe now. So I think that kind of says all about how good this approach is. The calendar understood its users, and through their marketing, you could tell that they understood their users. It's about that, thinking about the users at every moment.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really interesting. And also really challenging because it's a very specific newsletter at a very specific problem. Yeah. And what I encountered multiple times is that businesses would solve like multiple problems, and then the message, it's kind of fading into like multiple buyer personas, and then it gets so much harder to build this one newsletter that's kind of very relevant to whoever it's on the email list.
Yeah, I think that's where segmentation comes in. You can ask people which segments they want to be put into. I don't know if you've ever got that email saying, tell us more about yourself, but some companies do it. And it's, are you interested in IT? Are you interested in, lunch? All sorts of different questions that they try and work out what segment that you want to be put in. And obviously some systems are really clever and can work it out from what you click on and what your ecosystem understands, but that you do need everything joined up from your website all the way through to your email system to be able to do that. But you can simply ask people and they will let you know. You won't find out everyone, but you will find out different ones, and then start offering, most people start with one newsletter and then they start into, I'm going to have one on user features, and then one on webinars or events, and one on this, and then people can then tick and sign up to the ones that they want. So you can do that regularly and regularly cleanse your database. And I think people are worried when I say cleanse database because it sounds like, oh, not everyone's going to receive my emails, but they've told you at that stage they don't want to receive those emails, so it's no point sending to them. So it's about getting the emails that you want in front of the right people. And particularly for tech software, I think sometimes there's a real difficulty because the audiences, you can have a techie audience and a non-techie audience sometimes with different software, and they're very different tones of messaging and very different to talk to. So trying to work out who they are and separate them is really important. And you're in marketing, you'll know that we often do campaigns, so we don't send all of the messages all of the time. We talk about one thing for 3 months and then another thing for 3 months. For example, I'm a user of Airtable, which is a sort of online database tool. And I've noticed all of their emails recently are all been about AI. And that's not the only thing they do. They do loads and loads of different things, but that's the topic that they're campaigning on at the moment. And I think it's been about 2 months since they've been starting sending those. And so they're just telling us about AI. And I think people worry that if you say, oh, I'm talking about AI, then people think, oh, that's the only thing they do. But if you keep changing the message and iterating through them, you get the messages, just not all in one go. And I read that you have to get a message in front of someone, was it something like 15, 20 times or something for them to catch on? So you want to do that repeated message for a few months because you need it to sink in and people understand, and then you need to swap it, because if you keep swapping messages, people don't recognize them and they don't know what you do. So it is hard because you're right, a lot of platforms can cater lots of different people and lots of different things. When I've done webinars, I'll specifically target, I haven't got a tech platform, I've got my own business as well, which and for example, I wanted to target brand managers and talk about one of the issues that they have in brand is it's much harder to track brand and meet business goals and show return on investment. So I did a webinar for them, and I didn't say this is for brand managers. I just talked about a topic that they really liked. And when I reached out on LinkedIn, I reached out to all brand managers. So you just do it, in a more natural way. So I think people understand that content isn't for them if it's not relevant, and if it is, they read it, and if they don't, they delete it. So you can send stuff that isn't relevant and they will delete it, as long as you send some stuff that is relevant to them sometimes.
Brilliant. Well, I'm just trying now to sum up everything which we discussed today, to get this first 101,000 users to the platform. And sounds like keeping people's emails and launching some kind of communication through those emails is really important. Then finding our ideal client persona, buyer persona, that we're going to speak to.
Yeah.
And then giving them the incentive to push the kind of business offer forward to the senior team. So what else did we discussed? And have I missed something?
Oh, we discussed so much, I can't remember any of it.
Yeah.
I have the memory of a goldfish. This is the worst thing. And also, about not going, you don't have to do it electronically to start with, like the chap that I was talking about in Africa, where you can actually do some manual stuff first, and don't think you have to push just Google ads or Facebook ads and try and get out there. Go and meet the community. In fact, actually, that is a second thought on that. If you're going out and meeting people, whether it's virtually or in person, you get feedback straight away, which is really, really useful. So when you get that feedback from people, you can then tweak as you go, because you're getting real life feedback. If someone goes, oh no, I'm not going to sign up. The thing is, if you put an ad out, sometimes you don't know why someone's not clicked on it. If you go to someone and go, oh, do you want to buy this? And they go, no, I can't afford it. Or no, it doesn't do this service. Then it makes it a lot easier to sort of take that feedback in as well, doesn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. I guess then there's as well the balance when you listen and ignore some signals, because some people will be naturally maybe a bit more pessimistic. But
it's about patterns of information, not just one-offs, but looking at different patterns. And if something's reoccurring, there's probably something useful there.
Absolutely. Are there any resources, Anne, that you would recommend founders, entrepreneurs?
Google. It's amazing. You go onto Google and search out, ways to launch a tech startup and different techniques. Because if I'm a bit struggling for ideas, that's where I tend to go. ChatGPT. Give me an idea to sort of, I think also just chatting to people. I'm part of lots of communities and networking groups, and just chatting through ideas. Because I think sometimes when you're a founder of a tech startup or any startup, you sit there and you're trying to think of ideas on your own or with a small team, and you don't get that sort of diverse thinking of ideas from different viewpoints. So trying to get out there and just chat to people. And, at Fareham Innovation Centre, where I am, we have like events where you can talk to each other and splash ideas around. But I'm members of loads of different communities, like Mums in Marketing and Mark Schaefer's Rise community, where we all talk about different things. And if I'm feeling a bit stuck, I go and go, oh, what do you guys think of this? Or can we chat it through? And it's really good. Or I just, there's a few people that I just know on LinkedIn. I'll just message them and say, can we have a call? Because actually that's a really good place to just bounce ideas off of.
Brilliant. I think there are some really good ways to connect with people who are in the business. And Anna, thank you so much for speaking with me and sharing all your insights on how to get this first batch of users into the business. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been great.